I am so excited to talk about today's topic because it means I get to rant and yell at people through the microphone and not to their face because I feel bad when I do that.
So you're bold behind a mic, not behold. Oh, this is so true. I was telling Becca, I'm like, we are going to rant today about GLP-1s and these natural GLP-1s. I already did it on my Instagram a little bit, and then I had to put a disclaimer, like, before you come at me, recognize that your herbs are not peptides. So all these people, because I keep getting messages and then also now some emails from previous clients, like, what do you think about this natural GLP-1? And I'm like, this is not the same thing. This is an herbal product. It's a green tea extract. It had some lemon verbena and some other stuff in it that's like magnesium was one of the ingredients.
Yeah, some of them have
$75 a bottle.
a lot of them have probiotics and prebiotics in them because, again, usually GLP-1 dysfunction stems a little bit from the gut.
Yes.
Chronic dieting, degrading your vagus nerve, burning out the receptors, all the things.
Lack of diet variation to feed the bacteria that we need, lack of fibers to have butyrate production, all these things. Listen, guys, about maybe a year and a half ago, I did a Nature's Ozempic reel talking about butyrate because butyrate is one of the things that signals GLP-1 activity. So just in case no one understands what this is, let's talk about it. Glucagon-like peptide is a hormone that is secreted after we eat. So this helps with insulin signaling. It helps with appetite and satiation. And, you know, when we look at the craze that we have right now in terms of the Hollywood style, like everybody's on Ozempic. Like we've even had South Park made an episode about it. Lizzo finally got on the train after that because they were making fun of her. We look at how people are using them. There's a way to use them and there's a way to abuse them. And that's what we want to talk about today.
Mm-hmm.
Before we get into this, I'm going to stand by what I said. There is no natural GLP-1. Herbs are not the same. They help with signaling. They can help restore, for example, like you mentioned, probiotics, right? We know that there's several probiotics out there. Akkermansia strains are very important. Faecalibacterium is very important. Some of our phyla, bifidobacterium, we have different specific strains that really help produce this butyrate and short-chain fatty acids for signaling. All those things are important. But to market and to prey on people who are desperate and don't want to go on an injectable peptide, or it's been denied, or just they don't have access to it, and sell these herbal bottles for $75 it's a bullshit. They're herbs. They're not peptides. Yep. And I think it's wrong. And I feel bad for people who are being conned, essentially. Like, pills pay the bills, y'all. Like, if you looked at the cost of making this particular product that my previous client emailed me about, I bet you that cost them maybe $6 or $7 to make. And they're selling it for $75.
Yeah, I mean, weight loss, let's be honest. I probably paid $7 for a bottle of pills that told me I was going to lose weight in college multiple times.
Oh my God. Anything that said that it was helping me burn fat, I bought. Okay. I get it. But it's not a natural GLP-1.
And we're going to talk later on this episode, all the things you want to consider before going on an actual GLP-1 too. And here's the thing. You'll probably find a handful of people that these products
work
help,
for.
And they work for. And they are the golden child, right? They are the ones that are taunted and shown like this works, right? But here's the problem, is that in most cases, these herbs are stimulating GLP-1 production, which can work in some individuals. The problem is for people that are very metabolically dysfunctional, that have burned out their receptors, that have degraded the vagus nerve, something that stimulates ain't going to work. It also is a lot less bioavailable, typically in most of these situations, and the stability of them is less, and that's seen in research. And a lot of these that are promoted online, unfortunately, you guys, like, look at the research and the data on them. They are very preliminary. A lot of them probably don't even have actual data and research showing their effectiveness in humans. A lot of it's probably mice studies, right? GLP-1 injections and these GLP-1s that are, used in doctors' offices and in med spas, and, we use them through our medical team. They've been around for decades.
They're injectable peptides.
They are injectable peptides, and they have been researched for a very long time, and they are continuing to be researched and shown effective and improved upon basically generation after generation. We're currently on, I believe it's like a fifth generation, the retatrutide, which is still, I would say, preliminary. Like, their research on retatrutide is still a little preliminary, but tirzepatide and semaglutide is pretty solid in terms of the research and what it's showing, and they differ. So semaglutide is a GLP-1. Okay, it's a glucagon-like peptide. Tirzepatide is a GLP-1 and GIP, which is a glucose-dependent, I'm going to miss, insulinotropic, it's a long word, peptide. And then retatrutide is a GLP-1, a GIP, and a glucagon stimulator. So they're all working differently in terms of how they affect blood sugar, gluconeogenesis via the liver, the inhibition of glucagon, the insulin secretion, like all of the things that matter when it comes to blood sugar regulation. You can't just throw something in it that's an herb or a probiotic and affect all of these things, how these peptides are affecting, and in the stability level that they are affecting them. Like, it just is not possible scientifically.
Yeah.
We're here to state that. So like, it seems nice in theory. Mm-hmm. In reality, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah. And when we think about how God designed us, like, he didn't design us with any deficiency of GLP-1s, right? What has happened though, what has happened though, is that we live in a world that is, I mean, we're in toxic soup every single day, right? So many people have just gut microbiomes that are disasters. They're eating, standard American diet with all these seed oils that are very inflammatory. Our receptors become, burned out. So Becca was saying, like, we need to be able to hear the signals. And so when you actually take a peptide, it's going to mimic the hormone, but it's also going to basically say, like, yo, I dropped the package off. Nobody answered. Now I'm forcing you to open the door. Where the stimulating herbs are just not going to do that. The door is not going to be open. Nobody's home. Nobody is accepting the Amazon packages. So this is really where, when we think about peptides, I almost look at this as replacing what is lost, similar to bioidentical hormones. And we want to use them strategically, right? We don't want to abuse them. There's a time and a place. And honestly, I think that if we could fix our food supply, number one, that's a huge issue, but we could get people metabolically healthy, and maybe they need to rely on this. We need to get them, as Dr. Tina says, a leg up. This helps them get out of this state where maybe they have a lot of food noise and they can't control these urges that they have. There's a lot of hormonal imbalances and things that are happening chemically that we need to fix and address, but these can be very helpful in that season of doing so. Then you walk off of it and now you maintain your healthy diet and your lifestyle. And hopefully your body stays in a good place where blood sugar regulation is there, because a large part of this also helps with insulin, right? So if we have someone who's very insulin resistant at a high A1C, we can correct that with these as a tool, not as a crutch. Then we can come off of these things, and through our diet and lifestyle, with the body that God designed us with, that's pretty dang smart, he didn't mishap here, then we can keep the results. Right? But a lot of people abuse them, and they go on it to say, nothing works. I'm just going to shoot myself up. I don't want to have to think about food. I don't want to have to exercise. I don't want to have to grocery shop and meal prep and all the things, count my calories, my macros, whatever. And they aren't taking care of the internal noise, the relationship with food. They're not putting in the foundation. So we're going to talk all about that. But there's a right way to use these things. And if you look at the research, like Becca was saying, many people could come off of high cholesterol medications, statin medications, diabetes medications. Like, there could be so much that we actually benefit. We have a lot to gain from these. The problem is Hollywood picked it up, and it's a weight loss craze, and med spa
and you're
giving them out like candy.
The doses are getting cranked. And like Liz was saying, our bodies were designed beautifully. Okay. When you put in the GLP-1s, GIP, glucagon stimulators, and these peptides, you are not just putting in that and that alone. You are now affecting the entire body. They are messengers. Hormones are messengers. You put some hormone in, it's going to affect everything else in the body. And so when you're cranking these doses, guess what? Weight loss ain't the only thing getting affected. Brain chemistry gets affected. Absorption ability gets affected. The gut gets affected. All types of things get affected. What I've seen actually on people that come in these cranking the doses of them, their hormones are bottomed out. They have to increase their HRT because, again, it's not just affecting blood sugars. It's affecting the entire endocrine system and other parts of the body. And so when you crank these doses and you just drop weight super fast, you're also typically losing way more muscle mass than you should. That is when the research is true and people are losing a ton of muscle. And then you're no metabolically healthier than when you went on these GLP-1s. You're lower weight, but you've lost a ton of muscle. You've probably driven down your metabolic function because you've underate, because you can't eat, because their dose is way too high. It's a number one sign that the dose is way too high when you cannot eat and you don't have the urge to eat ever. And you're probably not strength training as much as you should and pushing weights in the gym because, again, you're not eating enough calories. So how could you, right? They can be used properly, but the one thing I always say is lowest effective dose possible. When a dose works, you don't need to go up. Why should you go up? You're losing weight, blood sugars are improving, but people are like, I want to lose weight faster.
I was going to say, but Becca, I want to lose 5 pounds a week, not 2, and the biggest part here that not a lot of people are talking about, I mean, we'll talk about conventional medicine and the way they use it and not talking about all the things they need to, the burden on your liver when you lose weight too fast. So a big thing too is that some people will go on these and when they first start, they get headaches, they get very fatigued. They're like, man, I'm just lethargic. Like I can't tolerate this. You're detoxing. You're detoxing pretty hard because your cells are now being forced to function and open the door. And now you're releasing a lot of these things that maybe you haven't been because of something called cell danger response, where the cells are like, I don't want to release this because I know that it can be harmful to her. And so that is a big side effect for some of them, especially for people who haven't done the right work foundationally before they go on it, which we'll talk about. And when you are experiencing those types of things, you need to scale back, right? You need to, even if it's that you started at half. So I'll tell a story. We have a client who started at half of the dose and she was really, really tired. And I was like, great, you don't get it this week. Then you start back at like 2 units, 3 units, right? And so normally it's 10 units that they start people at, and then they go up by 10 units. So it's really important, I think, that you work with somebody when you're doing something like this, number one. And number two, the problem that I have with conventional medicine when they're prescribing this, well, I have a couple of problems. So let's talk about, first and foremost, they are not monitoring any other progress besides weight loss so that the insurance would continue to approve it. They're not focused on improving the person's diet. They're not even asking those questions. They're not looking at how to improve their lifestyle. Are you exercising regularly, right? Are you doing these things that you need to be doing? Drinking water, adequate electrolytes. Many of these are sodium sparing. So no wonder people are coming back in having kidney issues and all of these other issues because they're not talking to them about adequate electrolytes, drinking enough water with a good amount of sodium. And then I don't know where this falls. It's up there. Is it my number 1 or number 2? I think it's going to be my number 1, putting people on semaglutide that have had years of chronic constipation. Y'all, part of the mechanism with this GLP-1 is that it slows down motility and gastric emptying so that you don't feel hungry as often. People with chronic constipation have no business taking semaglutide. Tirzepatide, different conversation. We can talk about that, and that is great, but I have even seen people at a very, very low dose get severely constipated when they've dealt with chronic constipation for years. What is that going to do? The same thing that it does, even if you're not on a GLP-1, it puts more burden on your liver because you got all this waste sitting in your colon, getting reabsorbed, going back in line to the liver, all your hormones that have already been processed and being utilized. That's going to drive estrogen dominance for many people. The liver is becoming inflamed because now we've got leaky gut in the small intestine, recirculating, all these things. And therefore we start to get fatty liver. Just a variety of things can go wrong. And the goal is to try to improve things for people, right? So if you are somebody considering going on one of these things and you've been given semaglutide, or what we know as Ozempic or Wegovy, and you're finding that you're chronically constipated even on this, and maybe you have a history, maybe you don't, please talk to your provider and switch over to Zepatide or Mounjaro, Zepbound. Those are other, 2 names. I just think that now we know with semaglutide that there's more side effects than there are on tirzepatide. The research is there to show it. Talk to somebody. It's a little bit more expensive, but you know what? I would, again, if you're going to use these things, use it smart, use it the right way, hopefully short term, maybe long term, you're cycling a low dose or something like that. But Don't stay on something that you know is creating more problems for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the biggest things that I get frustrated by is that people are taking them and not monitoring that they're working. They're just losing weight doesn't mean it's working, guys. Like, yeah, you're probably losing weight because you're in a huge calorie deficit, because you're not eating, because you're not hungry. And so how we monitor that these are working, because again, they are a tool. We use these GLP-1s, GIPs, glucagon inhibitors as a tool. Okay. And so monitoring blood sugars, that is what they are built to do. These are built for diabetics. We're using them in lower doses for weight loss resistance, metabolic dysfunction, inflammation, because they are very anti-inflammatory. But you need to monitor that why you went on them is what is actually happening. Our blood sugar is improving. Check fasted in the morning a few times a week. Check 2 to 2.5 hours postprandials. We need to be getting in the 80s to low 90s. If you started in the hundreds, it might take some time, especially not cranking the dose, which you shouldn't do. When we increase dose, we wait at least 4 weeks before we increase doses because we need to make sure the body's acclimating it to it. Again, another reason we don't like the herb option, because you can't control the dose. Just take more of the capsules. Like, no, you need to be able to monitor the dose properly and only increase to what you need. But some people do have to increase the dose on these for a period of time to really get the body moving as we need to. And so you can't use a GLP-1 stimulator and just keep increasing the dose, especially if it's not working, right? So with the GLPs and the GIPs and all of these inhibitors, you have to be able to manage dose and watch, hey, our blood sugar is actually going down. Am I monitoring what I'm eating? Right? Do you know how many calories you're eating when you're on these? Or are you just like eating when you think you're hungry? It's not a good strategy. I can promise you that, because how we do use these as a tool is we typically, again, look at blood sugars before. We utilize different diet variation, whether it's, is the person trying to maintain as much muscle as possible on it? Okay. Are we lifting consistently? Maybe we're following a training, non-training day. Like training days are higher carbs, more moderate calories. Non-training days, we put a little fasting in, or lower carb and higher fat, right? Maybe we're trying to get this person into ketosis and using the GLP-1 as a stimulant to help push them into ketosis because they're struggling to get it on their own, right? So are you monitoring blood sugars, blood work? We typically always test blood work before, during, after utilizing these GLP-1s. Like you might see, hey, I'm experiencing a lot of deficiencies on them. I have a lot of nutrient deficiencies, and you can see that on blood work, right? I have lower energy on it. Are we not eating enough calories? And are we not absorbing our calories? Like Liz was saying, is the gut in a really good spot before going on them, right? They can be a great tool, and I get it. There's a huge enticement to it. They're sexy. They work. They do. But are they actually leaving you healthier long-term, or are they going to screw you long-term?
Yeah. And I want to add something here too. So I mentioned earlier, certain strains of gut bacteria play a big role. A big one that we know about is Akkermansia. And there's a few different products on the market that have not necessarily said they're a natural GLP-1, but they talk about, like weight loss probiotic or whatever. Here's the thing. When we look at stool testing, we get to see the levels that are detected, and too much of a good thing is not a good thing. When you have high levels of Akkermansia, so let's say, you decide, hey, I want to take this probiotic because I want to lose weight, and you start taking a blend that's got Akkermansia in it, and you don't cycle it, you're staying on the same probiotic long periods of time. Guess what that high level of Akkermansia does? Over time, it can actually worsen autoimmune conditions. It degrades our mucus layer, which creates leaky gut, drives inflammation. It can worsen things like Crohn's or ulcerative colitis, multiple sclerosis. These things are serious. And all the while, it's coming from something that is actually good. We need Akkermansia, right? We can feed Akkermansia from a lot of colorful polyphenols and antioxidants. And there is a time and the place to use those probiotics. They are tools in the right situation. But if you're just out there kind of playing supplement whack-a-mole and you decide that's the probiotic for me because I need to lose weight and sounds like it might be able to help, I don't blame you, girl. I've been there. But at the same time, please don't take these things blinded. Test and address what you need with your gut microbiome, especially if you have autoimmune conditions. I am very hesitant when I put those things in place, and I don't keep them in place for more than 60 days without taking a break. And I usually put it in place when I know the person is low based upon their stool test, because I don't want to run the risk that I am overfeeding bacteria that doesn't need to be fed. Now, Becca hasn't ranted on this yet, but there's other MLM, multi-level marketing, natural GLP-1s that are out there now. And we've been asked about them several times, and they're coming in these pill forms, and they do have a peptide in them that they're saying, but they're touting. And if you look at the, from my understanding, there are a lot of probiotics that are in this, right? So again, what do you do when it stops working? You just start overfeeding all this bacteria. You wipe out all your good bacteria. Like this is damaging. And when we think about the gut microbiome, Hippocrates said all disease begins in the gut. I believe that. And I also believe that we know that inflammation is the root of all disease, right? Well, most of your immune system resides in your gut, right? If your gut is leaky because it's inflamed, your whole body is now inflamed. And so we go back to the gut. When we think about the immune system being a root cause, we go back to the gut. Like the gut plays a major role, and it's never a hormone issue in isolation. It's also never a gut issue in isolation, because you got gut issues. You probably got hormone issues. You probably got metabolic dysfunction. You probably got a fatty liver. You know, that's just the name. That's the world that we live in. Like that's the name of the game these days. And it is something that we've become more and more aware of. And we're thankful for the tools that we do have, but we need to use them the right way. So let's talk about, if you're going to go on a GLP-1, because we love them, we like them. Becca and I both take them in small doses, right? Minimal effective dose. They're powerful tools and they can be very, very helpful. So what do you do when you want to go on a GLP-1 the right way?
Yeah. So prior to starting it, we need to make sure that you are clearing waste properly, AKA you're not having major gut issues, right? We're not having severe bloating or chronic constipation or long-term chronic issues, diarrhea, food sensitivities, all of those pieces. Because again, like Liz was saying, those are typically bacterial imbalances. Those are typically some type of low-grade infection going on in the gut. And when we slow gastric emptying, which these GLP-1s do, you're now causing a better situation for bacteria to back up, which causes more issues.
Just open the door.
Just, hey, bacteria, are you hanging around? I'm going to keep you around because I'm going to slow things down even more. You can back up even more into that small intestine. You can create more gas for me. And so we need to make sure we are clearing, because also what that's doing is it's making sure that we are detoxing at a good rate. And just because you're pooping daily doesn't mean you're detoxing technically properly. You could still be dealing with liver burden. But again, why we want to do blood work. I always want to see blood work before I put anyone on GLP-1 to make sure, like, is the liver already stressed? Do we already have deficiencies with nutrients? Like, what's this person's health history? Does this person have an eating disorder?
Like, should they actually be using this?
Yes.
You know, because I think that it's become a crutch for so many people. I am very cautious when I pull it into our protocols. There have been a few situations where right away, and this is people who are coming to me who have done a lot of work, I put it in a low dose, and it really is a game changer because it helps the body do what it's struggling to do. But they're also doing all the dietary changes and rotations and variation and fasting. And, you know, again, they're doing the work. And my problem is that we're just handing these things out like candy. Like I talked with actually one of our clients a few weeks ago. She got a quote from a med spa, $600 a month. I want to like throw up. Like, awesome for those people making bank. Like, cool. You're making thousands of dollars. Again, I think it's immoral. And, you know, that's just my standpoint on this, because you're preying on these people who just need a little bit of help. They're tired and they don't feel great. And maybe it's the last 10, 20 pounds they've really been struggling with. And so now you're going to be like, hey, here you go, $600 a month. When the reality is they're not that expensive. They're a few $100s a month, you know, or
depending
like
on the dose,
for vial, right? Like, and that vial is going to last you maybe a month or 2 or 3 or 4, depending upon the milligrams and how much you're taking, all these things. There's a lot of people out there marketing the same way that the herbal supplements are marketing them and making a lot of money. And I just don't think that that's right. I think we need to use them in the right way. And if the Maha movement continues, hopefully we will see that we need them less and less, because we won't have so many issues underlying. But one of the things that, you know, you mentioned in terms of like the detox pathways, people are like, well, I poop. Okay, well, if you don't poop, you're not detoxing, number one. But even if you do poop, doesn't mean you're detoxing, like you mentioned. We know that people, like go to the bathroom and they can have stools that are all over the place. We just podcasted yesterday. They're like, well, what about like, then you just,
bloating and color and fat in your stool.
Or like too much. Like I go to the bathroom too much. So it's really good. So I must be really detoxing. No, you got other pathways that you need to detox. You need to urinate. Your urine should be pale yellow. It should not be clear the way that your water is. You should be doing filtered water, right? We need to think about sweating. And again, lymphatic drainage, all of these, there's a lot of areas in your body that you can have toxins get stored and things become very sluggish, even if you're pooping. So if you have fatigue, if you have skin issues, if you have any bloating or, indigestion, heartburn, GERD, acid reflux, you got right side pain, you got joint pain, probably not detoxifying all the things because, again, we live in a world of toxic soup. So like Becca was saying, if you do blood work and you see that the liver's already struggling or you see that you're not absorbing these things or that there's a need, right, for stomach acid or vitamin C or glutathione or whatever, you want to utilize those things in addition to the GLP-1 to maintain your body's health. Because I would say that similar to birth control, we can get into a place where we're very nutrient deficient when we're using GLP-1s if we're not supporting the pancreas, we're not supporting stomach acid and bile flow to better help you absorb the foods that then you are eating, because most likely, like Becca said several times, it's probably less than you were.
Yeah. And another thing that we see, and we've talked about this before on podcasts, is that these GLP-1s are sodium wasting. So they are going to cause you to excrete higher levels of sodium so that you will end up basically chronically dehydrated if you do not account for that. And it's not typically discussed in a doctor's office when they're giving you the pre-filled injections. So you need to up your water and your electrolytes because otherwise you will end up dehydrated baseline compared to where you started. Exercise and movement, I think, is huge here, right? Like when you're losing weight, can be like, well, I feel like I don't need to exercise as much. No, you need to maintain muscle. Maintaining muscle is not easy. And these can be great tools to keep inflammation down and all of the things, but like you have to lift heavy and eat adequately. I'm not saying you can't go through periods of lower calorie. Absolutely. They're often necessary. But if you have gotten to a place where you feel overall pretty good, you need to make sure that you are eating enough while utilizing these as a tool and exercising adequately and like lifting heavy. There is plenty of research that shows truly building muscle mass and maintaining muscle density, you have to be close to failure. If you are not lifting close to failure, you're probably never going to build muscle tissue. I actually had this conversation with someone on social media the other day. I got very, very angry.
I think it was just the screenshot you sent.
Yes, I sent Liz a screenshot of this because this is here, you guys. This is what we deal with. Like, this is where I think people are just so misinformed. Someone mentioned I struggle to maintain or I struggle to build muscle tissue, and I said, "Well, do you lift heavy, like progressively? Are you lifting really heavy weights?" Well, no, because also like I know that I'm probably not going to build muscle tissue, so like why should I even start lifting?
I don't even understand.
So first of all, logic, not any here present. Second of all, I came back and I was like, well, you cannot build muscle tissue without stimulus to the muscle that creates an adaptation. Like you have to lift heavy enough to stress the muscle tissue enough for it to set the foundation to then recover and build stronger muscle tissue and more dense muscle fibers. She said, that's one point of view. And I go, no, it's the only point of view. Like that, literally scientifically, it's the only way that you can actually maintain and build adequate muscle tissue is by stressing the muscle. And that only happens under load, under a weight. Walking, you can maintain muscle for a while walking, but like you have to stress the muscle tissue. And not only do you have to stress the muscle tissue, you have to provide adequate recovery for then the muscle to adapt. Because people that be working out 6 to 7 days a week, yeah, guess what? You are worsening your situation because you are not providing adequate recovery for the muscle to adapt properly. So you're laying the foundation, stressing the muscle, but then it's like, hey, I can't get ahead.
Building blocks.
I can't get ahead. You keep stressing me. I don't have the recovery to then build. So you need to properly and intelligently strength train when on these. Like, I am all for hiring a trainer at some point.
Yeah.
Because most people, one, don't know how to move. And 2, don't know what heavy feels like.
Just walk around a Planet Fitness and you'll realize that people don't know how to move. The new gym that we're going to, like, I'm very happy. It seems to be like these are gym people, right?
Love it.
But also I text Becca and I was like, the girl training here, it was just me on Saturday morning. And then eventually this girl came in and then a few other people came in. She changed her shirt 3 times. And I was like, she's not videoing herself. Like, I thought maybe if she's making some content, you know, like, I get it, girl, you got to change. We do it here. Right. But I was like, why is she changing her clothes so many times? But anyways, that is totally beside the point. I agree with you. And there is such a thing as called Ozempic butt, Ozempic face, like all these things, right? We want to make sure that just like if you were to go through, which we'll do a podcast on fasting too, but just like if you were to go through a season of just really under eating, let's like think back to the HCG diet, right? When people were like eating 500 calories and guess what happened when they went off of it? They just ballooned up. I have seen it in my own eyes from several clients previously at our gym. How well did that work for you? It didn't work.
The net negative.
Because now you've harmed you. I'm not like damage. I hate that word, but technically, like, yeah, you've down regulated your metabolism, right? Your basal metabolic rate, because your body was like, what the F? I only have 500 calories a day. You're starving me. Eventually, it's going to be like, hey, we're no longer in that, you know, famine state. I'm feasting and I'm storing all these calories. So just like if you were to do something like that, or let's say 1,000 or 1,200 calories and you dropped a bunch of weight, cool. What do? You have to reverse diet properly. We've done, I don't know, probably 7 or 8 episodes on reverse dieting. It's the same way on a GLP-1. When you lose weight and you're under eating, you have to walk off of it slowly and at the same time reverse your calories back up to bring all your hormones back online, bring them back up to their full potential, maybe even higher than, you know, they were before if you're doing it in a healthy, strategic way. Somebody asked me the other day about like, why would you need a strategy with fasting? And I'm like, well, you always need a strategy. Like, you don't just decide like, I'm not going to eat and then I'll just eat whatever in my fasting window. No, like, you're intentional with the food that you are eating within your window, adequate calories. And then again, when you're done accomplishing the goal here, either getting your ketones up or getting weight off or whatever, then you walk out of this. Like, you can't just stay in these like long fasting windows forever. So anyways, that's another podcast. But the point here is that you need to eat adequately. And if you are in a phase where it is intentional for fat loss and you're strength training and you're doing all the things, make sure that you reverse diet off this properly so you can maintain your results, or you're going to balloon back up. And also, please make sure that you're doing the work. I know that these things can quiet the noise in the mind and like, I'm not craving, you know, and people really appreciate that because they have a lot of food battles, right? Thinking about their next meal all the time. Well, I can't have that because it's going to make me go over my calories and my macros or whatever. They feel like they're not in control. Large part of this too is your dopamine. So as you come off of a GLP-1, you might want to put something in, like we like Dopatropic. There's a few different products that can really help because otherwise it's just like rage.
Dopamine comes crazy back online and all the cravings come back. And the problem with eating lower calorie for a long period of time and increasing calories quickly, guess what? You're going to gain weight and you're going to gain weight fast. You're going to turn on all the inflammatory pathways. And this is why when we work with people and we bring them off of these or we bring them out of a low calorie state, because sometimes it's necessary to bring people into a low calorie state. We do it often with healing. If you come up too fast, shit hits the fan and bad. And people will gain weight very quickly. And that is why they need to be monitored. Like, I get so angry at the situation and I shouldn't let it affect me. I shouldn't let it stress me out. But like, it's so hard to see all of this brewing, and you know things are going to happen when these either aren't covered under insurance anymore or they get way too expensive for people or whatever it may happen, and people can't take them anymore. We'll be here. I'll tell you that. We'll be here to help fix the mess that this is all creating, but get ahead of it and do it properly if you are not working with someone. We just gave you a ton of information. Make sure the gut is in a good spot. Make sure you are, pooping daily. You are not having major bloating or any of these irritations. If you are, reach out to us. Our practice works on all of that, obviously. If you are, taking them, make sure you are getting enough hydration, electrolytes, your strength training, you're monitoring calories so you don't get too low, like doing all of the things lowest effective dose possible. Do not crank these for no reason. The lower, the better, because the easier it is to come off of it. Monitoring blood sugars when you're on it. Like, do this right so that you do not end up in the mess that most of these people are going to end up in on the other side of it.
And y'all, like, we get so passionate and fired up and sometimes use some colorful words here because we care. Like, we actually care about women. And, you know, I want to call out Stephanie. So Stephanie is a friend of ours. She runs a business in Canada and they work with women as well. And we were at a event together and she doesn't have a personal story in terms of like her personal story, the way that Beck and I have shared ours. So we were kind of talking about like, you don't have to have that like personal story, but this is a passion that God has given you. Like, what makes you so passionate? And she just started crying and she was like, I just feel like these women are just being taken advantage of. And I can't agree with her more because people are being taken advantage of. And I understand that functional work and functional medicine, unfortunately, is not covered by insurance. FSA, HSA, those types of things, thankfully, you know, you can use those. But for a lot of people, it's out of pocket. At the same token, right, I get so fired up because I see all this shit online. Colorful words, sorry for if your kids are in the car, but I see all this stuff online where, like we talked about in the beginning, people are just being targeted with these ads promising that you're going to lose weight. And this has been around for years. It's nothing new, but now that this GLP-1 craze is here, it's getting worse. I heard the other day on the radio an advertisement for Ozempic, Domino's Pizza, and juice cleanses.
75% of commercials or 75% of ad money is drug companies.
So literally, we have a drug to cure our problem. We have pizza to make the problem. And then we have a juice cleanse that is also supposed to be like the cure. I guess I could get down with the juice cleanse, you know, in some ways. But it's like they're literally programming you to eat like shit, to feel like shit, to then want to do a drastic juice cleanse. And when that doesn't work, go on a GLP-1. Because the juice cleanse didn't probably work. It's so restrictive that then you go back to the Domino's Pizza. And now the solution is GLP-1. Like, follow the money. It's so frustrating. So we get so passionate because we care about people. We want you to feel amazing. We want you to feel confident in your skin and to have energy to play with your kids. Like, I cannot imagine having the symptoms that a lot of my clients have with 2 small children at home. I wouldn't be a nice person. I wouldn't function. I don't know. Like, it just would not be a good situation. So we understand that sometimes we get a little bit fiery, but we do it because we love you. And please share this podcast, tag us, share it with as many people as you can, because we know that this information is not being shared. People are not talking about the right way to do these things, and they're abusing them.